Hi everybody, and welcome to the Power Hour in the Anxiety Compass. If you are here, do jump on and say hello, or if you would rather not say hello, that is absolutely fine too. We respect you either way. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Sally Garozzo, and I help creative entrepreneurs to dissolve anxiety and to ignite their passions so they can get their talents out into the world naturally, just as nature intended. And I do this through a form of hypnosis called rapid transformational therapy. And I love it. I absolutely love what I do, which is great because when you love what you do, anxiety doesn't present itself as much in your life. So this is the Power Hour, and we are going to bring on Serena Simmons in a minute. When she arrives, we have Rachel. Say hi, Rachel. Good to see you. Lovely lady, you're always here. You're so faithful to the Anxiety Compass. Let's hope that Serena is able to join the live. Let's hope she's not having any issues. I'll just keep talking. So if you are catching the replay, then still pipe up, still jump in and give some comments because we will answer everything. Now, Serena, I'm going to introduce her to you. Here she is. Serena has got 20 years experience as a psychologist, and she was also a senior lecturer. She taught to master's degree level forensic psychology. And hey Serena, I'm going to bring you on in a second after I've given you a massive intro. And she also taught mental health as well. So really this woman knows everything, and she's a really wonderful friend of mine as well. She's absolutely lovely. You are going to love her. She now specialises in positive psychology, combining her expertise in drama and improv. So I'm really excited to pick her brains about the link between drama, improvisation and mental health, because I know a lot of people in the arts have mental health issues, but also the arts helps mental health. So please get your questions ready, do get involved, show us some love, and yeah, let's get her on. So Serena, if you can bring Serena on camera. There we go. Here she is. Hello.
Hello.
Sorry, it's old friends that haven't spoken for a while.
Oh no, I've got a really big head on the screen. It's horrible. Move it back. You're so good for my ego.
Oh yeah?
It's like the best intro ever. Can I steal it for all of my stuff?
Of course you can. It's yours. You can own it.
Oh, it's so nice to see you.
Yeah, it's really good to see you.
And to see anyone here. I don't know who you are yet, but thank you for having me. I'm really chuffed to be here.
Oh, that's all right. Well, we've got Rachel and we've got another guy, and I can't pronounce his name. Oh God, you're going to have to forgive me. Perhaps you could. J-O-A-O.
Jael. David Noguera.
Yeah. Sorry.
He can tell us if that's right. Sorry if that's wrong.
Yeah, we do apologise. Right, let's get to it, Serena.
Yes.
Huge welcome to you, and thank you for doing this for us.
Thank you for having me.
Because you are epic. You're an amazing woman. And I would like to know from
Who's that about?
I would like to know from you a little bit about what your story is. So, things like, have you ever suffered with anxiety? And if so, how did you deal with it? And really, as well, how did you come to be the founder of 8 Model Psychology? How have you come to be in the position that you're in today? Because I'm sure people would be interested to learn about your journey, your process, and what kind of issues you've had along the way to inspire and motivate everyone else.
Okay. Wow. Okay. How long have you got?
Got an hour.
I'll try and be brief though with this bit, because I think it's I don't know how interesting people will find this bit. Can you hear me okay, actually? Is this okay for you?
Yeah.
Great, okay, perfect. So have I ever suffered with anxiety? I wouldn't say I've suffered with anxiety in a clinical sense. So I've obviously helped other people deal with anxiety, and that's what I've done in my past in my profession, is I've helped people deal with a clinical based anxiety. I think everyone knows what anxiety is, because everyone would have experienced this at some time in their life, and I'm no different. So I've had things that have happened to me, whether it was just exams when I was at university, or an interview, or something that I had to attend that caused me certain anxiety. So I think that, like anyone else, I can really relate to that feeling of feeling anxious about something. And I think that just having those experiences means that you can draw upon kind of what you felt when you've experienced that, and kind of in a way that you can help people. Is there anything else you wanted me to say about that? I mean,
I did ask you a quick question, if that's all right. What would you say the difference is between clinical anxiety and the kind of anxiety that you get when you're taking an exam, or you're breaking up from a relationship or something, like the kind of more longer term anxiety? What is the difference in your professional opinion?
So there are things that you have to have really in place to give someone a clinical diagnosis, and one of the main things that you're looking for is that feeling of anxiety having an impact on your daily functioning. So whereby a normal, and I use that word kind of loosely, kind of feeling of anxiety might affect you. Like I said, we all experience that, and I think anyone listening to this will know what feeling anxious feels like. So we all kind of know what that feeling is. And from a physiological point of view, we get a knotted stomach, we might get sweaty palms, our breathing changes, our heart rate raises. And we have kind of negative thought patterns that come into play that kind of work against us. That whole fight or flight mechanism really kicks in, and you kind of get and experience all of those feelings and thoughts associated with that. Someone who has an anxiety disorder, and that's what you're looking at when you're looking at the clinical diagnosis, you'll see it, you're noticing that there's that not really experiencing that anxiety as that normal pattern of functioning. It's actually just impacting them daily. And so with someone who's having generalized anxiety disorder, they're just possibly feeling a constant trickling of anxiety in the background. It's like constantly there, to the point where it is impacting their daily functioning. So they might struggle just to do normal tasks like go to work or have a conversation with someone. So there's always that kind of bubbling anxiety, bubbling away there in the background, and it's impacting how they function daily. So that's the clinical bit, really. That's looking at that kind of daily functioning, and how difficult is that person, how difficult is it for that person to manage that in their daily life. So there's some of the main things.
And do you think that prolonged anxiety, if it's left unchecked, can lead to some of the other mental health issues like OCD, like bipolar, like depression? Because obviously, that's going to make you depressed, isn't it, if you can't function normally?
Yeah, I mean, some of the things that you've mentioned there, no, because like they wouldn't lead to things like a bipolar or another diagnosis, but depression and anxiety go hand in hand. So it's you typically give that dual diagnosis. I mean, someone can manifest with a depression or an anxiety disorder, but more often than not, certainly in my experience, they come as a package. So it's depression and anxiety.
Is that because with anxiety, the nervous system tends to burn out and you get frazzled and you just sort of end up with this, just not feeling very positive?
Yeah, I think a little bit. Yeah, and I think kind of what you've alluded to there is kind of what's happening, which is it becomes a bit of a vicious cycle. So it's often, I found that people who maybe have had depression for a long time, because again, when you're depressed, again, daily tasks are just so hard. You're feeling so down that you don't feel able to go and do things as you would normally do, even just going to work or socializing or doing things with people. And so the longer that you haven't done that stuff,
Yeah.
you start to try and introduce it, and that just causes anxiety, and then
Yeah.
you're on a little vicious circle.
Yeah.
Because the way to get out of those patterns is to try and push yourself out your comfort zone, but that in itself is the problem, because it becomes quite an entrenched behavior. So a lot of the work that you would do with someone is to try and, you know, kind of basic CBT approaches, is to look at it from a behavioural point of view, and to look at kind of small behavioural tweaks that you can make to essentially get you to behave differently, to give a different feedback loop to that feeling. It's kind of trying to override the negative loop and present something positive to override what you've been experiencing.
Yeah.
And it can take time. Yeah.
Yeah. So that somebody starts to feel better about themselves, more able to cope in the world, a feeling of hope rather than a feeling of hopelessness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like, if you can create more positive experiences, then again, that feedback loop, you begin to see that maybe that wasn't so bad. And gosh, I don't know how deeply we'll go into this, but the absolute power of your unconscious, and actually this is your territory, is do not underestimate it.
Yeah.
Because it's, you know, the old saying, what you say is your truth. What you think, what you feel, it becomes your truth. Whether that's, you think that's conscious or not, it subconsciously works in a way that alters your behavior, alters your thinking.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And how do you think that changing your habits and behaviors consciously can affect your subconscious mind?
Oh, like, just that is the power. It is.
Yeah.
There is so much going on underneath the surface. I mean, this is why I did psychology.
Yeah.
Because it's just so fascinating. We still don't fully understand the brain. We still don't fully understand what we're capable of in terms of, you know, our behaviors and our thoughts and our ability to learn. And I know, just anecdotally, and I know from my own life, you know, thoughts and kind of your experiences, they enter your consciousness, like I said, whether that's been very conscious or subconscious, and they impact what you do, they impact how you feel, they impact all kinds of things, not just how you respond, but they impact you on a physiological level as well.
Yeah,
And I
really
think
do.
that, you know, like that mind body spirit connection, we can't underestimate what we think and what we feed ourselves mentally, and the impact that has, because it has a huge impact on your behavior. So the more you do to think positively, to feed, you know, we know about good diets and to feed ourselves good food because it has an impact on us. It's the same for your brain. We've got to feed it good information. It's feeding it, it's giving it sustenance that's really positive, and that has a huge positive impact, hugely positive impact.
When I used to go to the Dan Yoga Center, they always used to say, give your brain good news, because they were Korean.
I like that.
Give your brain
good
news.
It's so true.
Yeah, it was a strange old place. It really was. It was it was a bit of a cult, actually.
I would expect nothing less from you. So
I know. You can imagine me getting sucked into a cult, can't you? And I mean, I learned such good stuff from it. But yeah, they tried to get me to spend thousands to
yeah, I can imagine.
to manipulate my brain. But yeah, it's that part of give your brain good news. I'll always remember that. It's so important. And I think in this day and age as well, it's so easy to let your thoughts spiral out of control, and you have got to notice it quickly, and you've got to stop it quickly, because it's like self-indulgent, you know, when you let yourself worry, when you let yourself ruminate about the past, worry about the future, worry about what's going on in the world, and you know, all the stuff that we really have no control over. Because I believe that we only have control over one thing, and that's where we put our attention and how we perceive a certain situation in our lives, for example. So
definitely, and how we relate to that is up to us. Yeah, definitely.
Really
definitely.
And you know, go on.
No, I was going to say, it's funny that you say that, because actually I'm still a university lecturer, so I still do it, and I keep 2 days teaching, and being older, we won't go into how old. But you know, I remember being at university, and I don't remember seeing people around me be as anxious as I see students are today, and it's a problem that we deal with so much. There are just such high levels of anxiety in a younger generation, I think, than there were before. And we have to question what's going on in our culture to create that. Like, what's going on? And I, you know, social media does play a big part in this. And if you're talking about anxiety, I think that has to be a part of the discussion as well, because, you know, for all the benefits, and it's hugely positive, hugely, you know, where would we be without it? I mean, we're doing this now.
We wouldn't be doing
and
this.
It's
You would be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on.
But like anything, there has to be balance, and
every front,
you know, that whole
back.
yes.
Every front is a back.
Yeah.
Go on.
And I think that, you know, people comparing themselves and just that analysis paralysis, you know, like we just kind of look at what everyone else is doing and are just constantly comparing ourselves, and it becomes so crippling to so many people. I mean, it was bad enough comparing yourself to your peers when you're growing up, when we were young, dare I say. But to compare yourself now at the click of a button to kind of hundreds, maybe thousands of other people, that can be really detrimental to our mental health if we're not careful. So I think
it's almost like we're hyper connected, isn't it? You know, we're almost like too connected, and you lose your sense of your nearest and dearest, and you forget to sort of nurture your nearest and dearest. And I think that is actually having a detrimental effect on intimate relationships as well, because you are, you know, you pick the phone up rather than stroke your partner's feet or look them in the eye.
That's nice. I'm really sorry, by the way, my cat's just joined me.
Whee!
I'm so sorry. Oh no. Never mind.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Bear with me.
The power of live TV. Right, Lisa, you have said, I completely agree with you about social media and the young ones. The hard thing is they become addicted to it so easily. Yeah, my 13-year-old gets angry if I ask her to put her phone down. Yeah, actually, Lisa, I have just decided that I'm not coming off social media, but I have massively started to manage my the time that I spend on social media now. And so instead of scrolling, so I've kind of stopped scrolling, and instead what I'm doing is just going on to post announcements, post notifications, go into groups and post, and then if anybody responds to that post, obviously I respond back to them, so that there's a little bit of interaction. But what I don't do now is scroll, because I found myself, and this is the power of the screen. I would be laying in bed if I'd been scrolling through Instagram.
Sorry.
That's all right, I'm talking, I'm improvising, love.
Disaster.
So if I was laying in bed, and you know, I could see this flickering in my eyes as I was going to sleep, you know, as my brainwaves were slowing down to you know, that sort of theta brainwave in between awake and sleep, and I could see a screen, and I was kind of dreaming in screens. I mean, how bad is that? I was like, oh, shit,
it really does enter our mind.
Got to get off. And then it becomes a sort of altered reality in a way. It's like it's a two-dimensional reality that's actually not real. And today I was driving to an appointment, and I have this impulse every time I stop the car just to check Facebook, which is disastrous. And I was like going for the phone, and like, no. And I would choose instead to look around me, and I saw things that I hadn't actually noticed before on this journey that I've done so many times, thinking, oh, actually, you know, reality is not the phone, it's not the screen, and it's fine to go on it, but limit yourself, you know.
Yeah, you're so right. Yeah. Well, you're right, it's all about balance. And I just think that, I mean, like we keep saying and indicating, it's not negative.
No.
as such. It's just how we're using it, and like you said, it's just infiltrating our minds and having us kind of almost question who we are a lot of the time. And I don't know about you, this is slightly aside, but I also think if there's any kind of entrepreneurs or business people watching, that can also cause a level of anxiety if you're constantly comparing yourself to other business owners. Kind of, what are they doing? Should I be doing that? You know, kind of what's going on. So I think we can all experience those feelings and that feeling of anxiety depending on where we're at. So we just have to be really careful in terms of how we relate to it, and also know that people show a certain side to themselves on these platforms as well. So yeah, we don't always see the truth.
Very true. And
Yeah.
Serena's got a fantastic video called Surgery Knee.
Oh yeah, you remember that? Yeah.
And honestly, you've got to watch it. I'll post it on the Anxiety Compass because it's hilarious. And, you know, obviously, which is bringing me to my next point, laughter, which I love what you do, because you combine absolute hilarity with how you present your videos, you know, in your business. And so I would like to chat with you about improvisation and why you feel it's so useful in your business as well. So first of all, let's start with
an interesting one.
What is comedy improv? How did you get into it? There you go.
You do it too, don't you?
I haven't done it for a while, but I am thinking of going on to doing a retreat this year at Osho Leela with the mandates. Yeah.
Yay. So I used to live in New Zealand. I lived there for many, many years. I lived there for about 8 years. And my ex-partner used to do it. And over in New Zealand, it's a part of the culture, really. So what's really amazing, they don't realise how lucky they are. They do it in school out there.
Oh, wow.
It's just it's just what they call it, theatre sports out there. And it's taught in school, and it's done in a school setting. So everyone really has the option to learn how to do it. And so when I went over to live in New Zealand, I saw a show, the first, and I'd seen Whose Line Is It Anyway over here in the UK, which I loved before anyway. I just thought it was incredibly clever. And then I saw it live with these people, and I just thought, oh my God, that is absolutely amazing and petrifying. And I could never do that. I just thought I could never do that in a million years. And then my partner chipped away at me and kind of kept saying, well, have a go, because he used to teach it. So on one of his next introductory courses, and that was another thing, because it was your partner teaching you, and that's always a bit rough around the edges.
Yeah.
I had a go, and I was petrified, to be honest with you. I was really nervous to give it the go, but I absolutely loved it. I just loved it, and I ended up doing it for many, many years. Yeah. I did it for many years. I ended up teaching it myself and kind of performing in the Edinburgh Fringe. I kind of performed all over the place and done loads of stuff with it since then. And I incorporate it now into all of the work I do. And it's because on a purely personal level, I think improv is one of the things that has contributed just to my own personal development, probably more than anything I've done before.
Why would you say that?
So one of the things that I had an issue with before I did improv was definitely, I'd say, looking good.
Okay.
So I never wanted to get anything wrong. I always wanted to get everything right off the bat. And I grew up in a family where I always say that the culture of my family was that we didn't embrace failure. So you could fail at something, and if you did, it was something that you should hide from everyone. It was seen as a weakness. And so I didn't want to get anything wrong. I never wanted to get anything wrong. And when you do improv, you go wrong all the time, and spectacularly go wrong in front of lots of people. So that ego, your ego is completely broken down if you really give into it. And that's what happened to me. I just had to lose my ego. but the resilience it's given me is just invaluable. And I just really, it's one of the things I encourage a lot of people with anxiety to have a go at, actually, because it just breaks down so much of that ego self and some of the thought processes that you have that are negative, because you don't have time to buy into them. You learn to think very, very quickly, or act sometimes without thinking. So you've got no chance to process, and no chance to process the negative. And also, I think it just develops your play muscles. So as one of the things, the biggest gifts we can give ourselves as adults, if you're ever feeling stuck, or whether that be like you're feeling anxious, or that you just don't know what to do, whether that's your career, in your relationship, what can you do that would be playful in approach to that problem? So in other words, being playful means you don't have a desired outcome. You don't know what it would be. Whereas as adults, we're so used to knowing what that should look like that we don't play. You know, and a lot of I see my friends sometimes or people around me who think that they're playing, or they're trying to play, but actually they've got a desired outcome in mind. They want to win something or do something. But actually, when you're truly playful, there is no end result. And so again, improv taught me that, and I think that's one of the most valuable lessons that you can learn.
So say, for example, you're having issues in your relationship, and you're trying to sort it out mentally, or with any relationship, you know, mother-daughter, partnership, whatever, or friends. You're trying to sort it out, you know, you're using your logical brain, you're scratching around, you're going blaming and blocking and you know, getting defensive and all of this. How can you turn that, when obviously there is a desired outcome, to soothe the situation? How can you turn that into play? I would love to know what you think about that. I mean, obviously with you and your husband, your ex, sorry, was he a husband?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's ex-husband.
Yeah, you know, you both know improv, but if one of the other parties doesn't know improv, what could you suggest to them? Like, do a bit of yes-anding or something.
I think actually it's not necessarily doing the improv itself in your relationship. Like you said, we knew it, but and we're still divorced, so that's probably not a good advert for that. It's more taking a playful approach. So in improv, you don't know what's going to happen in the scene. You just have no clue. You go into it you have no expectation of what's going to happen. But you learn at improv to take the offer.
Yes.
So one thing that you learn in improv is that if someone says something, that you take their offer and you expand it. You never and should never block somebody. So if someone said in a scene, "Oh wow, look at the lighthouse," it's bad improv to block someone and say, "I don't see a lighthouse, you must be imagining it."
Yeah.
You always take their offer and expand. You say, "Yes, gosh, and the light is shining really brightly, maybe we should go and see it." So you're always taking that person's offer and you're expanding it, and it's playful because you don't know what's going to happen next. You know, you're going to go from a lighthouse to a jungle, and then you're going to have a great big adventure. And I think relating that to a relationship, we go into any relationship with a lot of baggage, whether you think you do or you don't, you do. Because your expectation of a relationship comes from what's happened to you in the past, from a previous relationship, or even, I hate to be the psychologist here, but that's what I do, your relationship with your own parents is what we take forward.
Yes.
So it comes with expectation, whether that's that you expect it to look like this from a positive point of view, or even negative. So you're kind of looking for things that should or shouldn't happen in a relationship. And just to be more playful is to take away a lot of that expectation and to have more of a playful approach. And to be fair, most couples I've worked with, and I'm sure most people who are listening can probably relate, that we tend to be more playful at the start of a relationship anyway. We're more inclined to go with the flow, to take the offer and move it forward, to be more playful. And it's only as we become more entrenched in that relationship that we stop doing that. So certainly what I would do is, if you're suffering in a relationship or you're feeling stuck, is to kind of reflect back on the qualities that you had at the start of a relationship and see what you can reintroduce. And if that's not really resonating with you, then literally to do things that take you out of your comfort zone and almost force you to play. And that could literally be playing a game. It could be going trampolining for an afternoon. It could be doing kind of go ape. It could, do something that you consider playful, where you both are maybe out of your comfort zones and you're in an environment where you're taking the offer and maybe working a bit more as a team. So there's lots of little things that you can do, but it starts very much with how you think and how you relate to the other person.
Because I think
open, take the offer way.
So take the offer. Okay. Because I think anxiety sufferers, I know myself, we're a bit serious. We take ourselves very, very seriously. I take myself way too seriously, and then you just end up cycloning in your own mind. So the idea of playing and I mean, everything feels very serious when you're an adult, doesn't it? Like you grow up and you're like, oh, expectations, responsibilities, got to earn money. But going back to what we were saying about perception, play can really kick seriousness's ass.
Definitely. So and it will be individual to you and your partner, obviously. So it's to find what works for you as a couple is really important.
True. So how do you weave improv into your business then? I mean, is it the same sort of principle where you're just going in brick by brick, building your business brick by brick, rather than having a vision per se? Or do you have a vision?
I have a vision, definitely. Yeah. In fact, a vision is the first part of the 8 model itself. So I think, to get to where you want to be, and I say everything you do starts with a vision and having a clear vision for where you want to go. It doesn't mean it won't change, and it doesn't mean that you can't change it in the future, but to have a starting point, because at the very least, we need something to measure ourselves by, to know that we've actually moved forward. And it's really important to kind of do that as part of feeling happy. It would be like, I say it's like setting off in your car, or when you want to go on holiday, you don't just randomly wake up one morning, get in your car and go on holiday. A certain amount of planning is involved. You kind of know what the destination is going to be and you plan to get there. So you book your annual leave, you pack your suitcases. You know how to get there. If it's in a car, you know the drive to get there. You don't wake up that morning and just kind of head off. So and it's the same in life. We kind of need to have an idea of where we're headed. It doesn't need to be kind of bogged down and kind of detailed to the nth degree, but just to know what you want is important, I think, so that you can execute some kind of plan to get to that place. That's a good way of starting.
Yes, definitely. Otherwise, how are you gonna know where you're going, I suppose? What was I gonna say to you? I was gonna say something to you about, could you please tell us, Serena, what 8 model psychology is?
We've come back to that.
We've gone half an hour without even mentioning your business and how, what it is, how it came to be. And while you're talking, I'm just going to turn the fan off. So keep talking.
Right. And also, I can't see you anymore.
Can't you? Oh, bugger.
No.
All right.
Just a bit sad. Because I do like seeing your face when I'm chatting. Should I keep tentering about what 8 model is while you do that?
Yeah. Keep chatting.
So, as you said at the start, I don't want to bore people, but I've been working in the field of psychology for about 22 years now. And for a long time, my background is all in forensic and criminal psychology. So I worked for a long time for the prison service here in London, and also worked for Rampton Hospital. And then I went into teaching. But I've always held an outside role outside of all of the work that I've done. So I've always done some kind of consultancy and had various guises of business. and they've all had a psychology basis to them. And I actually started a very different looking business about 4 years ago, and that was very much geared to multi-passionate women in business. So I would help people who had multiple passions to kind of focus in on how they were going to basically create an income and execute some kind of business in an area of passion. But even while I was doing that, I was working with lots and lots of clients one-to-one. An 8 model came about really organically. I had the idea for it quite early on, but it really created itself. And it was because I noticed that most people, and other people kind of gravitate to me for one-to-one work as well as just being a psychologist, but I noticed that I was taking people through a very similar process, and that was basically a process of change. So most people came to see me because really they wanted to change something. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh,
Can you see me,
hello.
Serena?
Okay, yeah, because I can't see you, so I don't know if you're there.
Oh no, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know if I'm supposed to yeah, because if I turn this off, if anyone knows what I'm supposed to do to try and get the Facebook Live working, please let me know.
If it's that. Let me see. Oh, no.
No.
I'll just keep tundering, but I might have to ask you if you can see me occasionally because I can't see you.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway.
Keep talking, as long as you can hear me.
Okay.
Same thing.
Okay, just about, yeah. So like I said, I was taking people through a process of change, and I noticed that process was becoming the same for everyone. People really wanted to change something, and so I was taking them through, because it was my work, this similar process. And at the same time, I was just reflecting really on what was going on around me in society. And I really felt like there was this creeping apathy in society about change, where we kind of felt, and I would see people feeling quite stagnant and stuck about how they could move forward. Because I think when you want to change something, you don't always know how to do it, and that's one of the problems. And that's how APE was born, really, and the play on words, because the first course I came up with was called Apathy. And it was a play on words kind of in terms of how we overcome the apathy that we might feel about changing, but also a play on the theme of evolution. Because essentially we have evolved to get to this point, but if I'm completely honest, it sounds a bit harsh, but it felt to me like there was a feeling of almost devolution that was going on. So people were kind of almost regressing in their behaviours in terms of how they could move, and essentially not moving forward. So that's really how 8 Model came about. It was essentially just through working one-to-one with people, and helping them through this process of change. And so as part of the 8 Model, which is a blueprint now for change, so it's a strategy that you can now follow, we look a lot at how we've evolved. So literally how we've evolved from our ape ancestors to get to be how we are. And really, obviously, being a psychologist, the focus is on the brain and our behaviour. So why have we evolved this way? Why do we find change so difficult, especially today? And how can we overcome those obstacles and those blocks to get to where we really, really want to be? So
that was my next question. That's brilliant.
What's that?
Serena. No, my next question to you was why do you think we are so resistant to change, and what do you think we can do about it? Because our brains are not fixed, are they? Our brains are
pliable. Very not.
Very not.
Very, very not. We do learn well in it.
Yeah.
No, neuroplasticity. Our brains keep changing and have the ability to form new neural connections right up until the day we die, which wasn't previously believed. We thought previously that we kind of declined forevermore after the age of 40. So it's quite refreshing to know that research shows that is definitely not the case.
Why do you think change is like so difficult after a certain age? Like, because the older I'm getting, the more scared I'm getting of change. But in my 20s, I would just move house at the top of the hat, whereas Now I'm like, oh God, no, no, no. It all feels a bit more fearful.
Yeah, it does. I think, and again, that's completely normal. And to me, honestly, it's because it's probably not a muscle that you're working. Like most people, we do become entrenched. As we get older, we do encounter more routines. It's completely normal, completely natural, especially when we're entrenched in kind of a job and a kind of anchors that keep us doing the same routines over and over again. And just in your 20s, they're usually, for most people, more turbulent. And you're usually, to some degree, seeking out new experiences more frequently than you would when you're older. So if you took a typical year in your 20s and we kind of looked at what you maybe you've done over the last year, I don't know, you might notice that overall you were doing more and stepping more outside of your comfort zone then than you are now. It might be completely different for you, Sally, because I know you do a lot.
No, especially in relationships.
Yeah. So I think that we
In my
have to
20s, I was a
consciously
devil.
work that muscle. I know. What, I knew you in your 20s.
You did, yeah.
It
Serena
wasn't
and I
that
were
long
in a
ago.
girl band together.
About 3 years ago.
Add a few noughts.
Yeah, I think that we just have to really consciously work that change muscle. So I always say that we need to seek out daily, even little things that make us step outside of our comfort zone. Tiny things. Even if it's just, I always say something simple like, if you notice that you walk the same way to work every day, go a different route. It's those tiny little tweaks and changes. And then there are the more significant things like, can you travel? Can you do something on your own that you've maybe not done before? Can you take up a new language? That really helps with our kind of wiring, if you like, and our brain function. So what activities can you take on that will really challenge you and challenge your thought processes and have change become more normal for you? Because we are entrenched in routines. And actually, I've written an article on breaking your routine, which I might send a link to you for.
Yeah.
If you think that people would find that useful. And I wrote it for Thrive Global.
Oh yes, I've heard of that.
Yeah. So it's on there. So I'll send you the link.
Yeah, that'll be amazing because I think it's so important that we get unstuck.
Yes, yeah.
It's that stasis that's very sticky, and I think it's the stasis that creates the fear because we're so not used to changing, and therefore any kind of change presents itself as fear. But actually, it doesn't have to be fear. It could be excitement. I guess it's just the way we frame it in our mind.
Yeah, I think we all, again, when you think about it, we all know the difference between that, but sometimes we need to tell our bodies that that's what we're experiencing. So I always say there's a difference between the kind of fear that makes you kind of shrink and want to like go away and you don't like something, but there's also an excited fear, like when you go on a roller coaster. So, what makes you feel like, what fear is this? Kind of, can you notice a difference? Is it the fear that feels like it's helping you expand, or are you contracting when you experience that fear? There is a difference. I think we do know it really. Yeah. So, I mean, I was going to say, I help. What I do mostly now is help people find work they love, and often I find that they're very, very fearful in that situation.
Yeah, it's a thing, isn't it? It's stepping away. So how, if somebody had an entrepreneurial idea and they were coming to you and they had a job already, but they were trying to sort of make their side hustle a bit more prominent, would you give them any kind of specific advice to make that transition?
Yeah, I would. It would be, there's lots. Some of the key things I would say are definitely don't leave your job immediately if you're not sure and you don't have something to go to. I think there's a big fear around people changing a job because they think they need to kind of be able to jump off very neatly into the next thing. And it doesn't always work that way. So the way I say it is you need to look at a way that you can scaffold your way out of that in a way that works for you. And actually that takes a lot of the fear away, because we're doing it step by step and very realistically and completely logically, because, you know, people who want to leave their job often have a family to support and pay a mortgage. So it's not viable just to kind of jump from one thing, especially when it's their own business. It's not viable just to jump headlong into that. So, you know, think about doing it strategically and planning it properly. And then the other stuff would be very much around kind of all bases of the model that I put forward, and that's getting your vision really clear. So what does your ideal life look like in the future? And it's not just your job or your business, because again, that's where a lot of people go wrong. They focus entirely on the business and what that should look like versus what do I want my whole life to look like. And I find a lot of people who have come to seek work with me have maybe tried something before that's failed, and it's often because they didn't factor in their life into that business, and they realised that the two weren't compatible. So what do you want your life to really, really look like? And then it's all the strategic stuff on top of that, that's your clear goals, scheduling, and kind of the timeline. Is it a realistic timeline that you've got to achieve that? And at the same time, you've got to work on your kind of your mindset and your psychology, which underpins all of the stuff that I talk about, because you are your business as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and also your self-care as well, because it's all too easy to burn out when you're an entrepreneur and you're really, really passionate about what you're doing and you love it. And this is where I've come unstuck, because I love it so much. I'm like, you know, go, go, go.
Yes.
Then nervous system burnout, boyfriend's fucked off, you know. And you're like, oh crap, I need to regroup, put all the pieces back together again. So you're right in what you're saying.
Yeah. In fact, self-care and well-being is a whole module in the 8 model. I will, if it's helpful for people watching, I will send you a map of the 8 model. So I always say that you could take the map and just work your way through it in a way that you think it works for you. So I'll definitely do that. And you've made me think of a client that I've got who, she had really big plans for what she wanted to achieve, but she also had 4 children at home and like a really busy home life. So like what you were saying, it was a lot of the work that we did together, and that's the psychology bit as well, is actually looking at how those two things mesh together to create the life that she wants, because she wanted a business actually to be able to spend more time with her family. So kind of knowing what your real goal is, your real goal from the outset, is really vital, and you do have to take care of yourself in that, otherwise there won't be a business, because you are it.
Yeah, that's true. Are there ways of finding out what your real goal is? Because I don't think often I've understood what that is for myself sometimes. I just thought, well, wouldn't it be nice to do X, Y, Z, without actually thinking, well, where do I want to be in the future? And I think as well, because the future, because I'm quite changeable, and I don't want this to turn into a psychology session. Hopefully this will resonate with people. But because I'm quite changeable, I don't know how I'm going to be feeling. Will I want to live in Brighton in a few years' time? What will I want in a few years? I don't often know what the future is going to look like because of my changeability. I know a lot of people aren't like that. A lot of people are much more stable than me.
But I think also that if I was working with a client like you, like, again, it's individual. You totally look at the individual and how they work. And actually, the other thing that I look at as well, the whole module is on breaking your routine and play. That's another module, is play. So you don't want everything planned out, because the beauty of life is to not over plan. When I say plan and have goals, it's just things that I mean, for example, if I said to you, do you have a goal? Any goals?
Yeah, I do have a goal. Yeah.
Is there one that you can share?
My goal is to be doing 4 RTT sessions per week. That is my business goal.
Yeah. So that's the kind of goal that I would work on with you, or you could work on for yourself that you want to achieve. It doesn't mean that you have to have every tiny thing planned in your future, because for you and for most people, the beauty of life is to, like I said before, you plan a holiday and you know where you're going, you've planned your annual leave and you've packed your suitcase, but you might take a scenic route or take a side route that you didn't expect, or stop off at another restaurant. You know, or you might even kind of get there and realise that you like the next resort along even better, so you go there instead.
Yeah.
And that's the same in anything that you plan.
Yeah.
I think the idea is to have the goals that you really want. And I think for most people, there are some goals that will not change. There are some fundamental goals that won't change for people, like spending time with their loved ones.
Yeah.
Or for some people, living in a particular area, you know, kind of things like that. Everything else is changeable and should be, and evolved. So the whole idea is that, you know, to override that apathy, because we don't want you just to go into another routine and stick with that and become, you know, kind of ground down again, is to embrace the playfulness, but to have some goals, because otherwise you won't be moving forward. And I think, again, it's really just about knowing how far you've come, and then being able to reevaluate and create new goals for yourself in the future, so that there is momentum.
Good call. Good. Yeah, I really like that. I like that idea of the space within the structure.
Definitely. Yeah, there has to be. There has to be flexibility.
Yeah, like a bendy scaffolding rather than a solid scaffolding.
Yeah, it is. It's bendy and movable, and it's on wheels.
It's rubber.
It is.
Okay. I don't. Can you see me or not? Still, am I still
No,
frozen?
well, I can see what I've always seen, which is this tiny little frozen head and nothing else, and it's such a shame. I've been interacting with a very odd picture the whole
potato
time.
head. Oh dear. I'm sorry. Sorry. I think it might be to do with my Wi-Fi connection. It might be, I might have it on the extension rather than the main one. But as long as you can hear my voice. I was going to ask another question just before we wrap up. We've just got a few more minutes. I've recently read Johann Hari's book, Lost Connections, about depression and anxiety. And he talks a lot about the nature of depressed and anxious people is they're very addicted to themselves. They're self-obsessed. And I know I can certainly see that within myself, and certain people have told me that as well. Not mentioning any family. And so I am now looking, so he talks about this idea of sympathetic joy. So being able to be happy for other people. And obviously, you know, if you are addicted to yourself and if you suffer with comparisonitis, it's very, very hard to, not very, very hard, but it can be hard to feel joy for other people, especially if you're very depressed, you know. So I don't know if you've got any strategies or solutions or even thoughts about that particular subject at all.
That's really interesting. I feel like I have to be funny. What comes up for me is how carefully I have to answer that, because I have worked with people. So I work, like I said, as a university lecturer for a couple of days, but for the most part, my business is positive psychology. So I no longer work with what I would call a clinical population. So if someone presents to me with a depression or an anxiety, I will always refer them to a clinician or a clinical psychologist now. It doesn't mean that they can't work with me to do the positive psychology goal setting, APE model part. But I have worked with people with severe depression and anxiety in the past, and worked for many years in hospitals. And I just want to say that having worked with people who are incredibly affected by depression and anxiety, you know, it is an illness and it should be taken seriously, and people do and often need a lot of help to get out of that. So if anyone's watching this and they feel really entrenched in it, then I think a lot of these strategies are further down the line for people when they've reached a place where they've got the headspace to deal with it. But more, I mean, like anything, everything's on a spectrum. So if you're feeling depressed or anxious and you're feeling more able to kind of take on some strategies to help yourself with it, then this advice is really interesting, especially given that you said that it resonated with you. And it's interesting to me that you say that, because actually depression as an illness doesn't actually exist in some cultures. So there are a lot of African cultures and cultures in Southeast Asia where depression doesn't exist. And some people argue, I mean, the research is varied when people try and make sense of why. And one of the rationale behind that is the possibility that people are so deprived and working so hard to survive that there's no room for feeling these feelings. So there's no room for rumination about essentially navel gazing about how they feel about the situation. They just have to do. So it's interesting for me that you say that, because it potentially fits in with some theory around why certain cultures don't experience it. Personally, I think it probably is prevalent in those cultures. We just don't have a way of measuring it, or maybe there's no vocabulary for it. But certainly one of the ways to get out of that feeling is to try and do things outside of thinking about yourself. And the irony is, when you're depressed, is that you typically have no capacity to do anything other than think and dwell and think about how you're feeling. So a good tactic to get out of it is to step out of it, and you know, the best way to do that is to do something for someone else. Because it does take you out of your head. So if you are feeling like that, why not do something? I mean, I don't know for you, for example, that now that you're helping other people, whether you notice a difference in your own mood.
Yeah, absolutely. I can be very anxious just before I see a singing student, and I've been doing this for 18 years. But as soon as I've interacted with somebody, after they've gone, I feel happy, I feel fine, because I've had a conversation, I've been moving the energy through my body, I've been using my brain, I've been focused on them. You know, especially with the therapy, when I do a hypnotherapy session with somebody, because there's a point in that therapy where you're talking the person into a positive frame of mind, you get it yourself, so you get all of that it rubs off on you, you know. And my worst days are the days where I'm just at home doing admin, because I'm not interacting with anybody, you know. You just get very like into yourself, and I know what it is. I mean, it's good to have the awareness that, oh, this is just anxiety, or this is just depression, or this is just loneliness, rather than latching onto it and going, oh my God, I feel so shitty, and you know, the world ends, and it's sort of not taking that thought and running with it. You know, it's taking that thought and batting it out the window.
Totally. I mean, I would just want to say, I mean, I'm not a person, I do this a lot in my business, actually, even though it's not my favourite thing to do, and kind of give people tips or 5 things they can do. I really do it just to neatly, quite quickly package stuff for people, although it's not as easy as that sometimes. But I would just say that if you are feeling that way, that the main things you can do for yourself, if you're feeling anxious or depressed, definitely look at your diet. So although I'm a psychologist, I always ask people what they're eating, because your diet has a huge impact on your function. And people underestimate that. There's some fascinating research out at the moment where people are looking at, and there's a lot that people can access, around diet and dementia. And it's fascinating. So we know that diet has a massive impact just on your mental capacity and mental function. So what are you eating? If you're eating fatty, processed foods, no vegetables, etc., I mean, you're starving your brain of the nutrients it needs to function, to even function. So if you're feeling brain foggy and depressed, definitely look at your diet. Are you getting any exercise? If you're not active, it's one of the best ways, and it doesn't happen overnight, and that's why people often stop doing it or don't do it. But what can you do to move your body? Because moving your body is good for your brain and good for your brain function.
Mm.
And then the other thing, like you've said, is talk to someone, step out of yourself and do something that has you not constantly ruminate on how you're feeling, but go and talk to someone, take yourself out of that situation and just be around other people. And then the other thing I would say as a psychologist, and certainly in the work I do, is if there's one thing that you're doing that you know is not serving you, that is not bringing you joy, whether that's a relationship or it's your job or it's your body and your health, start to tackle it. You only have to do small things every day to work towards that goal, to start to give your brain the feedback loop that it needs that you're on it. And the unconscious power of that is overwhelming. So but even if it's, I've worked with clients who tell me they haven't got the time to work on their problem.
Yeah.
So, for example, I'm working with someone who wants to leave his job. He's a director in a company, and we're working on helping him leave. But he's so busy. He's doing kind of 90-hour weeks. So where's the time? It just takes 10 minutes a day. If you're working on your future goals for 10 minutes a day, at least you're giving your brain the feedback loop that you're making steps towards achieving that goal, and that has a huge impact, more than we consciously realise.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because the more you do it, the more I don't know, the more you want to do it as well. Sometimes it's like you have to start even though you're not motivated, and then
yes, you do. If we wait for motivation, it would never happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In fact, you must have read
put one in front of the other.
Yeah. I was saying The War of Art is one of my favourite books. I think I recommend it to every single client I work with.
Yeah, I've got it on the bookshelf over there actually.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones I pick up and put down. I do need to read it. But I'm more into audio books, so maybe I'll get it on audio.
Well, get it on have you not read it all the way through yet?
No.
Oh, you must. Like I said, I recommend it to every client, and it's especially for those that, like you said, and we've been discussing, that think that they have to wait to feel motivated to do something or wait for the perfect time. When we all know that, we hear stories every day that people that wake up when they're kind of 80, or they're waiting for retirement to live their life, and kind of, you're waiting for this right time or the feeling to overwhelm you, or you're waiting to feel like going to the gym. I mean, it ain't going to happen.
No.
You need to override that by taking the thinking out of your action and acting anyway. So ready, fire, aim, as they say.
Yeah, ready, fire, aim. Yeah, just do it and know that you'll be better afterwards. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
That's it. Okay. Wow, we've been chatting for an hour, and
no, it's gone so quickly.
I know.
I do apologise for the interruption with my cat, who I will say the reason I disappeared was he spilt an entire glass of water. So I do apologise. That's why I disappeared down below to mop it up.
Oh, don't you worry. We've had worse. Well, my lovely lady,
it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
That's all right. You're more than welcome. I'm really glad we got you on, because you do have a wealth of knowledge. So I hope anybody that's been watching this hasn't been too put off by my frozen face. And so if you do want to contact Serena, her website is, go for it.
Am I saying it here?
You are.
It's apemodelpsychology.com.
Lovely. Okay, and we'll post it as well on the link below. So
thank you.
All right. Well, let's say good night.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I wish I could see you.
Yeah.
I'll blow you a kiss anyway.
And bye, see you later, my lovely.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening.
Take care.
Bye.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Oh.